Let me just recap us.
Adair. What about Dad?
Okay. All right.
What a...
Jen.
What about Dad?
Podcast.
Well, hello there, everybody. We're back, and we are present. For those of you who don't know us, I am Adair.
And I'm Jen.
Yes. And this is What About Dad podcast. Welcome. Well, oh, yes, you, ma'am, in the back. Welcome to you, too.
I feel like we're on a podcast frenzy. We just
We are.
decided to podcast this Charmed Reboot, and woo, it's been a lot of podcasting the last 2 days.
Yeah. I'm actually feeling this reboot. There's been so much controversy and things to be said about the reboot and all this intense stuff, which we will get into for the most part. But at the end of the day, I was pleasantly surprised. I liked it. I grew up with the original, and I'm not a huge fan of reboots. I kind of wish they wouldn't have called this a reboot.
Take the boot out.
Yeah, I think they should have just called it Charmed. And we all know it's the reboot, but they should have just called it Charmed and really just attacked it as something new, just a new generation. I think what they have was really good. Jen, how are you feeling about kind of your initial reaction to this?
I feel positive enough to want to sit across from you today and podcast about this experience. I'm excited for it. There's been a lot of reviews online. I've been tipping my head into the Twitter world, seeing what's happening there, seeing what the overall after reaction to this reboot was. I think it was hot and cold. But today, just to get us started, we're going to be talking about, we're not going to try and avoid the fact that this is a reboot. We're going to talk about some of the differences from the original. We're going to talk about some of the controversies and our overall first impressions of the episode and what our theories and predictions are. Yeah, so some fun facts. Differences between original and the reboot. So, did you know, Adair, that in the original, Mama Halliwell was murdered in the past? And so in this pilot, we actually get the main story being about the mother's murdered in the first 5 to 10 minutes of the pilot. So that was a really big difference. Did you know that?
I did know that. I do like the fact that they kind of sped it up. I mean, I know it was a big thing of ooh, our mother died. Who was our mother? Are you my mother? That type situation. But that
was a big situation.
I kind of like the fact that the girls have a knowledge, or two of the girls have a knowledge of their mother, because it's just going to fuel the I don't know, it's going to fuel that fire.
And that brings me to my second point. In the original series, this is really different from the reboot. So if you're looking, you're skimming the reboot, should I watch? But in the new series, two of the sisters know each other. In the original series, none of the sisters knew their mother. So that was a really huge story plot where none of the sisters actually met their mother. So there's that. That's a difference as well.
I'm here for it. I think it's great because, like I said, I get having a common goal of a woman you guys don't really know. They had their grandmother to kind of fill in a lot of the blanks. Pretty much you had a few exposition machines. It's a bunch of people giving you exposition about the past because the mother's not there. Yeah, you're going to get exposition in this show as well, but I think it's going to be more of flashback exposition as opposed to random characters just spewing out knowledge about their mom. I think
it feels more tragic because Macy wasn't involved in the upbringing of the mom, the youngest sister. So
that's what I'm saying. That's why it's good that it's not like a grandmother giving all three girls exposition. Now the flashbacks, even though they didn't really do it, I have a feeling it's going to happen. The flashbacks of the two sisters, Maggie and Mel, their flashbacks are going to be the exposition for Macy to be able to kind of learn about their mother and learn about that life that she didn't get. Which I think is going to be good and bad. It's going to cause a lot of tension and some really good storylines, I think.
And in this reboot, all of the sisters have different fathers, so they're all technically half sisters. Whereas in the original, Paige was the only half sister.
Which once again, I think is a really good idea on the sole fact that it's gonna create more tension. It also creates more villains at the end of the day.
I also think you're gonna move away from the original by having like 3 different father storylines you can pursue.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You can get villains or good guys because we don't know, like Macy, the new sister, if you will. She doesn't know why her father, like, told her that her mother died when she was 2. So she's grown up thinking her mother is dead. Okay, so
it does feel like you get to see the mother on stage. And she's so likable that you don't understand how she wouldn't want to have Macy involved because Macy's so likable. Yeah. That does make it that's the element that for me makes it more tragic. Yeah.
I'm like, well, why didn't she want her? Why did the dad keep her away? Like, was he a bad guy? Was it a fling? Who knows? Like, what was the deal? Like, maybe he put a spell on her so she didn't remember, or who knows? You know, there had to be a reason.
Great prediction right there.
Yeah, it had to be a reason.
And then lastly, one of the things I thought was pretty interesting was the Latin spells. So in the original, we had rhyming couplets. And in this time, whenever the sisters use their magic, they use Latin spells. So that brings us to the controversy. Mm-hmm. So the original Charmed was based off kind of European mythology, more
Celtic,
pagan, Wiccan kind of charms. This Charmed is apparently we're going to be seeing more of like a Latin mythology, a Latin form of, or hopefully down the line we'll see different kind of Latin witchcraft, because there's a lot. The witchcraft in the Latin world is kind of horrifying.
Yeah, same with like African stuff. Like, yeah, they're like real scary stuff, man. Like, they're all about, raising spirits.
The Santeria, yeah. Oh, it's all that. The curanderas. Yeah. I grew up with that, and if you want to be scared the shit out of, just ask your grandma.
If you guys like horror movies, if you guys like horror movies, that's really the kind of movies that y'all should start making, is like Latin horror movies where it's just like the spirits of like Santeria. Like, that shit is terrifying. The freaking chupacabra is like, they're talking about the,
it's horrifying.
It's all too much. But,
I will tell you a scary Santeria story for Halloween down the line.
That's a different podcast.
Yeah, that's a different podcast. So I was doing some research on this Charmed reboot. I always look at Screen Rant, Den of Geek, and Mary Sue. I like the articles. I came across one called The Erasure of Latinx Representation in the Media. And I also did a little deeper digging, and I found a podcast called But Why Though? There was an article by a Katie Sanchez, which was called Not So Charming, Charmed Reboot Isn't What It Seems. This was a really interesting article because Katie Sanchez brought up the point that Melanie Diaz is the actress who plays Mel, by the way, is actually the only Latin actress casted of the 3 sisters, 3 Vera sisters, and that the other 2 sisters, Madeline Mantock and Sarah Jeffries. Madeline Mantock is Afro-Caribbean and Sarah Jeffries is African-American. And where the controversy is that Charmed on the CW was kind of sold to us as an audience as a Latinx reboot of Charmed. And then they went ahead and only casted 1 Latina actress. And the other 2 actresses are actually not Latinas. And so we were kind of duped. And Adair and I just have some quick thoughts on that. What do you think?
Yeah, we were going back and forth because, at least for me, I'm an actress. I present as Black, although I can occasionally present as Dominican, Honduran, things like that. So as an actor, I get the actresses going, oh, great, this is a part, this is whatever I look like. I was telling Jen, when in the industry, a lot of the times, you're legally not allowed to ask somebody your sex or your race or any of that stuff. Like, it's just, what do you look like? And so, on these women's resumes, I'm 100% sure they put, they can play Latinx, they can play Jamaican, they can play Black, or whatever. This, I'm sure, Sarah Jeffrey, because she looks very, very Light would never put black on her resume, even though she is. You know, and that's kind of interesting and terrible, and it gets into a weird fine line of casting, because we want to be able to cast real, authentic Latinx characters if the story is going to have a framing of Latinx life. And you want to get actors who kind of already, they don't have to really act to be Latin. You don't want to act to be a race. You really do want to just act to be a character that's meaty. And that's kind of something that's getting a little gray and hard to define in the acting community, because I want to play a person, obviously, a good person or a person with a lot of meat, as, you know, far as acting chops go.
But some roles are going to call for more racial specific
specificity.
And this show seemed to have called for that, and we continue. I just wanted to drive that point in with what you were saying. Yeah,
they wanted to have more. Well, CW presented it as though there was going to be more specificity in the Latinx community, and then we got 2 actresses who aren't Latinx. Yes, I'm 100% sure they'll able to understand and empathize, because being women of color, and also being women of color who don't look like their own race, is very interesting and difficult, and it is its own thing, right? So I'm sure they...
But at the same time, CW shouldn't be banking or getting any social media capital from calling this an authentic Latinx reboot, because it isn't. They should have said it's Latinx, or there's Latino representation, and there's African American representation. Why not put that on the billing? Why not just be upfront with us?
Yeah, well, instead, and that I think is really the biggest issue.
They put these actresses in a corner. These actresses who I'm sure have come across some, you know, their own, you know, problems, being like, you know, not being put in their own boxes when they're auditioning. And I feel like this is like a huge missed opportunity. I was talking to Adair about this off the cast. I'll talk about it here. That within the Latinx community and the Latin community, there is its own colorism. There is a lot of Latin people who are racist against black-looking people, and a lot of Latin people who are racist against Afro-Latinx. And so there is subdivision within the Latin community, and this is like a show, one of the only shows on television that's billing itself as completely Latino, with Afro-Latinas in it, and a real opportunity to explore, and if anything, kind of build bridges between the Latin community. And it's a missed opportunity to just like kind of bank on saying that's what you're going to do and not actually backing it up and doing it. Yeah. And you know, and unfortunately, I feel like we're getting to a place where, you know, we're becoming more and more aware on a social cultural level, where we want trans actresses playing trans parts. You know, we want more authenticity in these roles and more thought and foresight in it. Unfortunately, I don't think that the casting networks, or maybe the casting directors, are entirely on board or gotten the message, but I feel like totally a missed opportunity.
I kind of feel like it's, you know, like I said, being an actor, I think it's kind of the point where you have to, at minimum, have one or the other, but don't not have anything. So what I mean by that is, if you're going to have, like, let's say a trans storyline in a show, have trans writers. If for whatever reason you can't hire a trans actor, at least have a trans writer who can write down that experience correctly, so that the actor has something to really genuinely, authentically go off. As actors, we're supposed to be empathetic. So if at least a trans writer was writing a story and really putting it across, that empathetic actor can really give it their all to bring this character to life, okay? But if you can get a trans actor, then get a trans actor. But also get a trans actor if you're only going to have a regular cis or whatever writer in the room. Have one, at least minimal, have one, but don't just sit there not having any. Don't use a cis actor and then have a writer writing about trans issues. That's freaking ridiculous. It's kind of like this. I would appreciate Latin actresses in Charmed if you're not going to have Latinx or Latin people writing the script. Okay? But if you're going to have, if you got a bunch of writers of Latinx stuff, and writers who are going to make that come across, and you, for some reason, couldn't find the right Latinx actresses.
I find this hard to believe.
Like, well, obviously, but that's why I said at least have the minimal.
LA is a basin of actors, but guess what? It's a basin of Latinos. LA is Latino now. It's
been Latino.
Like, there are more Hispanic and Latinx and Latin people in Los Angeles than there are anywhere else in this country. LA, hugely Latino communities. And to me, that you couldn't find one or two of them to play these roles, I do feel like this was a huge misstep.
Well,
and
yeah.
You know who stuck with this as well? Jenny Snyder Ehrman. She's a producer or showrunner from Jane the Virgin, so she knows the brand. She's worked with Gina Rodriguez. She knows how to create a Hispanic show with a Latina star. And I feel like she's going to be answering for this. And one of the things we talked about was that this show had hot and cold reviews. And they had hot and cold reviews because there was a lot of controversy surrounding it just being a reboot. The original actresses were not really on board with that notion of the reboot. And then on top of it, you have this kind of casting where it doesn't seem that the people casting were very considerate. I'm not going to say it's the actress's fault, and I'm going to even maybe think that Miss Snyder Ehrman probably didn't get her final say either, because we don't know what that.
The thing is, in the company there's producers and executives, and
CW
nowadays
went ahead and they acted like they had the pokey cards of diversity in their hand. They're like, we got a Hispanic, and we've got Latinx, and we got an African American. We got the diversity, and they sold it, and they're selling the show. And they're making money off it, and they're getting free press because they're calling it fully Latinx. And unfortunately, all these other people working on the show who want to create this great thing are being made to answer for it. I think one of the things this article does at the end is it doesn't speak to the actresses. It speaks to the CW itself. And when you and I have been doing this for a long time, we've been asking the CW to be brave. We've been like, well, hold your hand. The base will catch you. Please, 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 just step into the present.
Yeah,
catch up with us all.
And I was telling Jen, I said, look, I absolutely get that there needs to be Latinx, and especially if you're going to, say that and, put up all the PR and everything like that and the press that's saying it's Latinx, then have Latinx. Don't be an asshole about it. Or say, oh, we just have sisters who are multicultural backgrounds, some Latinx, some African American. It's going to be great. And we'd be like, ooh, shit, that sounds great. Awesome. Because not only if they would have done that and said we have Latinx characters, then you could have even had more African spells. You could have had Latin spells and show those kind of cultures at the same time because maybe the mom was diverse. Whatever. There could have already been extra lanes to go in.
You can go into the whole idea of Haitian voodoo.
Yes, exactly. And then what I was talking about is with this show, I feel bad because I'm like, right now, at the end of the day, all that negative stuff about the race is making it seem like the regular cis white woman version of Charmed is the better version. And there really is no better version because, that happened. This show is actually going to be really good. Now, my thing is, what if they do start hiring Latinx actors? Other Latin actors for, in their world, in their community or whatever. We have, what if they start doing more spells? What if they start showing it within the witch community? Maybe the regular world is full of these different characters, white, brown, whatever, but then maybe when they get further into their witching and, white lightering and who knows, there might be more Latinx, Latin people to kind of guide them because we don't know. This is a pilot. But I don't want you guys to be disheartened or discouraged from watching the show because, oh, well, they didn't get Latinx. Once again, they screwed up. There are a bunch of people, executives, who don't come from our experiences, people of color's experience. And they're running a company hoping that they'll get money. They know how to make a all-ethnic Latin show. They have Jane the Virgin with different colors and shades and everything like that. So you can't say they don't know how to do it. They just thought that you can get away with, pretty much watering it down or not doing all they could. So shame on them. But the show, the actresses are good. They are good talent. They're not terrible. And when I mean they're not terrible, they're CW acting. You know how it is. A little extra over the top, kind of dry. Not really. They're just basing it off their looks, you know? Well, these girls are beautiful, but they're not basing the reboot off of what they look like. I mean, besides, like, physical, like, you know, oh, boobs out and things like that. They're not sexualizing these women. They're making them look normal, you know? Mm-hmm. And yes, we can complain about the fact that they're not Latinx, but I think that's also doing a disservice to 3 female leads who are people of color, who are powerful, who are strong, and who have great chemistry together.
I think I can fit it both. I can appreciate them separately, and I can also complain. I have no problem doing both. I can multitask, not a problem.
Well, I mean, I know you can multitask, Jen, but there are a lot of people who don't have enough experience with people of color, or who don't know about acting world, and who don't know that, who are just going to be upset and butthurt solely off the Latinx side. Well, when you're really kind of spoiling the idea that, I was telling Jen, sometimes you got to spoon feed a demographic to people who aren't ready to see it. Also, there's something that I've always said, and you know, if you are sitting here and you're a person of color, you're LGBTQ, and you're only complaining that these women aren't Latinx, you should also be complaining that every single LGBT character on the CW are played by straight people.
I think that's the wait no. Before you make a point out of that, I think that's something that on a whole, across the spectrum, people, it's not just about the individual Latinx. It is about just as a whole, as a society.
Yeah, exactly.
We're ready to see more authenticity in characters.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that the call for more LGBTQIA characters has been made.
Actors,
and
yeah, would be great.
I think that is something. I think the call for more actual, authentic Latinx, Latina characters playing Latinas is being made. And I think if you think about it, you got to think about it like everybody has to say something. It can't just be one group. I think everyone has to put their foot down and say something in order for change to be made or relevant.
Yeah.
I think that as a community, the Latinas and Black women and LGBTQIA, everyone needs to really come together and ask for better representation.
And there are billions of actors in the industry.
There's absolutely okay to be Latin or Hispanic and just be like, I want Latin and Hispanic people in front of my eyes. I want to be I want to be included in the human experience, be able to relate to it, and I want people who look like me on television. In the same way that Black women and Black men can say the same thing about seeing characters in front of them on the screen being played leads. In the same way that you want to see, you know, lesbians playing lesbians and trans playing trans. It's just like it's a consistent. It's just everybody coming together and not being afraid to ask for a little bit more.
Yes. And as an actor, it does get a little gray line because I want to be able to play a character that I don't necessarily look like, but can have that experience. So it is a bit of a double-edged sword for certain actors. Now, the fact that Hollywood and TV have been consumed by cis white people have made us want representation. But we can't start climbing on every single actor who isn't exactly what we wanted. Because much like the LGBT thing, I'm saying, like Kyler Lee, she's a great representation. She really carries the LGBT community in her heart and is showing good representation on screen, but she's a married white woman, you know? So it's like, yeah, she's playing the part excellently. I don't think anybody else can do Alex Danvers the way that Kyler Lee is doing. Now, if we had a actual lesbian playing it, might have been different, might have been not as authentic. You don't know, you know, might have not felt as correct. So we have to be aware that there is a double-edged sword there, because there might be a straight person who can do a character better. There might be a Black person who could do the Latin character a little bit better, but you really have to make sure you did your due diligence to look for the best actor before you go to plan B. And I think a lot of people are just going to plan B and not really fully looking for talent. There are thousands, hundreds of thousands of actors in the SAG database that could easily be in any of these shows who aren't given a chance, who aren't being seen, who aren't being utilized. So they can't say there's a lack of people out there, because you can just flip through any SAG database at all. And SAG is the Actors Guild, and find any actor of any color. You will find trans actors. You will find black actors, Asian actors, Filipino actors, absolutely specified.
So there really needs to be a way to get these people of color and diversity into the eyes of the casting directors. I definitely think it is an issue of casting directors going deeper, being more aware.
Casting and executives. It's all about the executives, because they just want money.
And I'm just saying, being aware of the social climate, and that there's a hunger within the base for more, and it's becoming to the point where people don't want to take it anymore. They're just saying, no, I want to see this now. And it's a matter of these people who are in charge of casting these shows having the insight to, or the sense of
obligation.
Having the not obligation, just the sense of social climate / having the education about diversity to cast people. I think that these people who are casting these shows aren't necessarily, you have to look at it and you got to be like, is this being cast by a white person, a cis white person, cis white male or female? Who is casting these shows, and are they given the tools to really understand what they're casting? Do they have a sense of gender diversity and diversity? And that's where the conversation starts. It really starts with the person who's bringing together all the other people.
And as I told Jen, I said, look, at the end of the day, guys, people of color, if you're a writer, if you're a director, if you're a cinematographer, and you're a person of color, or you're LGBTQ, as crappy as it sounds, we need to start making our own production companies, our own products, because history continues to showcase that cis, white, male, female people are making money off the stuff that is only watered down and half-assed, when we could be making our own money, doing our own stories, showing our own people and our own things as brightly as anything else. That's why Black Panther did so freaking good. Black run. Everybody on set was black. There were some people who weren't, but it was to the T. All the people who were important in editing, writing, script making, directing, acting, black. All of them. Because we had the experience, and therefore the story came through better. It's that kind of thing. We need to start making our own, because apparently nobody else respects our own.
Well,
and it's okay. As an actor, as a director, we should all do that.
I don't think that people think outside of themselves enough. I don't think there's enough empathy where people think to think about another person's human experience, and that's what we're asking for. And
we're waiting for a certain group of people who are running the industry we are constantly, for the last 30, 50, 60 years, 100 years of film, we've been asking a certain group of people who own all the studios to listen to us. We want to see ourselves. The answer is they don't care.
I think
if they cared,
you
it would
just said
change.
something that was important. You said you're waiting for a group of people, and it's truly the doors into this world of writing and Hollywood. It's all about access, and you're right. Currently, the people who are holding the keys to access to the golden doors, to the meetings, to getting into the networks, they are still withholding it from people of color. And that is really true. And from LGBTQIA, they are withholding it from the diversity aspect. But let's get into this pilot, because we mother tongued this. Are you ready for the pilot?
Hey, it's an important. I am. It was just an important thing that we had to talk about. We were gonna get to it eventually.
This is a really important thing. This is the second Latina advertised show that I'm watching, and it's sad. I'm sad about it. That they didn't have the balls to go full Latinx.
Understandable.
All right, so okay, let's talk about the pilot. Sisters Maggie, Mel, Vera are young adults existing in the collegiate world. Their mother, head of the women's study department, is murdered. Flash forward months down the line. Mel, The older sister's angry. Maggie, the younger sister, is running away from her grief. She's pledging into a sorority on campus, trying to get away from the house. Anything to say about that?
I loved the sorority sister, the head sorority sister.
I didn't get her name, but I liked her.
Gave me like Mercedes vibes, but like also like she's just like kind of the worst. And I cannot wait. For those of you who don't know Jen and I, one of our favorite words is pedestrian. So I'm very excited that we have this pedestrian character who lives in the regular world. She's just a regular person, and she's kind of the worst. I love, because it's supernatural, we're going to have supernatural villains, and I hope that this character comes back as a pedestrian villain. Like, she doesn't have powers, she's not a demon, she's just a bitch.
Her power, like, her power is being cuntish.
Yes, exactly. And I think that'd be such a great foil often for that. I think that'll just be really funny. That'll give it some humor. The sister.
I actually really want her to be a foil for the character of Mel, because they are just such a dichotomy. They're like each other's opposites. She's like the blonde hair, blue-eyed sorority sister, and Mel's like the combat boot wearing lesbian. It's gonna be great. It's like Mean Girls.
You know what I was actually looking forward to is them shipping them, because like that'd be really funny.
No, I'm sure Nico.
I mean, it's never gonna happen, but that'd be hilarious.
Okay.
Like nobody has time for it, but that'd be funny. I love a good villain and hero trope. Anyway.
Yeah, I do want them to like have a few episodes together, and I'm sure we're gonna get that. It's gonna be a long season. Do you know how many episodes we have? I feel like this is a 22 long haul. Ooh. Okay.
Who knows? But things that we liked. I was loving the house. We were trying to debate. We were like, that's the same house. That's not the same house. But it is the same color. And it is a Victorian house, which I think is really cool. I liked it. I like the fact that it feels old and like it's been in the family for a while. But doesn't look like they have to be super rich to own it.
I was thinking that I would really love to see the storyline where they Airbnb the house. And they end up getting, like, the weekly demon coming to stay in the house.
That's pretty good.
The house had a haunted mansion feeling. It was eerie, but you said it had a homeliness to it. And I have to really agree. Yeah. That's, like, a weird thing to put two verbs together, eerie and homely. But they captured that, and I think that's a hard thing to capture.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. Okay, so something that I liked, right off the bat, we have the love interests of the three girls. We have Brian, poor Brian. He's after Maggie, I do believe. And, they must have dated already.
I feel like
she broke up with him.
That relationship feels really new, just so you know. I feel like it's new.
Well, the thing is, they were already dating. Okay. And she broke up with him because, as she said, she wasn't ready for that kind of serious commitment. But I think that's the part of her journey, because now being a witch, that is a really big commitment that she now has to. She kind of did it at the spur of the moment and said, sure, I'll be a witch. But what does that mean for her now? Because she does need attention, and she does need, she has self-esteem issues. So having this boy, Brian, who just like, I'll do anything for you, have a puppy dog. It's going to be very interesting.
I liked Brian. Like, I thought he was, I really liked him. He didn't do anything that, for me to dislike him. He allowed her to lead. He seemed like a good guy. I hope they make it work.
And he got to be a little possessed for a
little
bit.
I like the makeup on that, and I like the CGI effect on that.
They gave us a little wavily, gooberly
eye. They go in a little Lexa. Little
Lexa. Little gooberly.
Like, I know what kind of makeup we can do on him. Lexa. Yeah. And I was like,
hey, exactly.
He's infinitely more attractive now. Okay, go on.
And then we have Galvin. Galvin is Macy's kind of friend. I'm doing that in quotes because they're not dating yet, but in the dialogue definitely made it clear that he's into her, and he's kind of a comforting arm. Macy is very much the scientist. Everything makes sense. You have to have a reason and a rationality, and when she does things that are unrational, he kind of sits there and goes, you do realize that was unrational, right? You do realize you weren't using your scientific brain. So
yeah, he seems to be able to emotionally fact check her.
Yeah, and I like that. He seems cool. And then we have Nico, our resident lesbian, who is dating Mel. They dated, and then when her mother died, they got distant. I'm sure the way they explained it, Mel pushed her away, and Nico didn't know what to do, so they just kind of split. but they're kind of rekindling now that she's coming into her
I feel like
again.
this is like all backstory off camera, and this is one of the few times I'm going to say that I actually could see all of that happening off camera, and I'm glad we didn't have it on camera. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I bought
Absolutely.
all of it based on the scenes we had, and I was like, great, can't wait. They are starting off, though, together after being broken up, so it's going to be interesting to see where they go from here. I feel Nico, for me, is the one that I think is going to find out about the powers first. I just think...
Oh, absolutely.
I just feel like...
Because I'm pretty sure they wiped Brian's memory from the whole possession thing. Nico, I think she's a detective. I think she was the detective in the beginning, because that made sense.
Yeah.
And then, like, you know, she kind of scolded her for getting in a fight and all that stuff. So, yeah, I think that was the same girl.
I love that she was, like, an Asian lead love interest, by the way. I just thought that was great.
Is she Asian?
She's Asian.
You know what? I can't tell with this cast. I don't even know anymore.
So ethnically ambiguous. Maybe we should just, like, let it go, but just thought it was good.
Yeah.
No, it kind of, like,
everybody's
it's just, like, it's
ambiguous.
refreshing. Like, the fact that I'm, like, refreshed by it. I shouldn't be. I should be normalized, but I'm not. Okay.
Also, it's the second Asian Nico on a TV show.
It's a good name. It's like a millennial. No, it's pre-millennial name because she's not a millennial.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Okay, so how did you feel about the premiere overall?
I thought it was like I think the CW is a well-oiled machine when it comes to supernatural procedural shows. And I felt like this reboot really just checked off all the checks. Mysterious murder in the first 5 minutes. That's your teaser. You know, conflict, resolution, done. Big bad. But wait, that's not the big bad. This is really the big bad. Just everything about it checked off.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a part of it that didn't feel like out of place. I wasn't questioning the characters' motives yet. I felt like they just did the ABCs of creating just your fundamental procedural, and based off this pilot I can see what every other episode's going to look like. We're going to have like a baddie of the week, but really a baddie of the week. I feel like with Winona Earp there's sometimes too much going on, and I'm like, which one was the baddie? I don't know. Or that's not necessarily the most important part of the story, but I feel like the baddie of the week, the resolution, and the small emotional development of the week. That's what we're going to be getting. It's going to be a slow burn. And
I think this first season's going to be a slow burn to get people used to the girls.
Yeah. I think, okay, I think there's a better question. Okay, so of the girls, Macy, Mel, and Maggie. Adair, I'm going to guess right now, using my magical Santeria powers, what your favorite witch was. Are you ready for it? Okay, get it.
I haven't even thought about this.
Get it in your head. Okay. Okay. All right. Now, and then you can guess which one was mine. I'm clearly have a preference for one. Okay. Your favorite witch. I'm giving her bewitched eyes. I think it was Maggie, and if it wasn't, it should be.
Okay. Hey, why do you think it should have been Maggie?
Because Maggie is the emotional empath of the group, and I feel like you could really relate to her. That Maggie had a cute love interest, but also I think that Maggie was the last person to get on board with the notion of becoming a witch. And I think if someone was like, hey girl, you are a Charmed 3, you would be the most skeptical about it, being like, no, I'm not. And then like shit would have to fly in front of you from your mind
now,
for you to
you're
believe
just saying
it.
who I'd be more like?
I'm just saying who I think that you liked the most, yeah. Your favorite witch was...
Let me just tell you this, guys, because this is actually the order of things that go in. I actually went with Macy. Now, let me tell you why. Because Maggie, for me, as her looks, her personality, is the usual trap I fall into constantly. And I was like, you know what? As a mature woman, the person who I really think is interesting, like, no, you know, okay, like dating-wise, I would totally want to date, like, a Macy, but I'd get a Maggie because a Macy's like, oh, you're still too young. like she has her stuff together, you know? And I'm like, I could have my stuff together, and then I'm like, but let's do this sorority.
You're a little annoyed because Maggie is a little like you. There it is.
Well, not like me.
She
No, definitely
reminded
not
me
like
of
me.
you. Absolutely, I was watching this. I was like, Adair
I would say I'm a
Maggie.
mix between Macy personality. Like my dryness is a Macy.
No.
My
You are
empath and flamboyancy
emotional.
is a
You are
Maggie.
emotional. You are a Maggie. Embrace it.
No.
She was a great character.
No.
Why wouldn't you love her? She's great. She even does look a lot like Alyssa Milano. Let me just throw that at you. As soon as she first came on this thing, I was like, wow, they really tried to go full Alyssa for this.
Also, Alyssa Milano was a little
episode.
ambiguous.
Always has been. She's a Milano. Okay.
Exactly. So
okay, guess mine. Guess mine.
Mel.
Me? I'm a Mel? How am I a Mel? I'm not angry in the least.
No, it's not the angry stuff. It's all the other stuff. The way she... Just everything else. Besides the anger is Jen, pretty much. Yes. The over feminist, but like, these are the facts. This is what it is.
If someone told me I was a charmed one, I'd be like, yeah, oh my god, I'm totally a charmed one. I'd like believe them in the first second. Like, I'm a charmed one, clearly. Although I wouldn't want the power to freeze things. I think that's like the boringest power of them all.
I think they're pretty cool. Yeah, no, I would like power-wise.
Yeah, what would your charm power be?
Like, that's what I'm saying. I'd be more of a Macy because I want her power. I don't give a damn about hearing people's thoughts.
She moves things.
Telekinesis.
Yeah, the one power they left out was the original power of Alyssa Milano, second sister. She had the ability to see premonitions, so she'd always, the procedural for the original was that she would always see the murder happen.
Well, I'm pretty sure the empath, I'm pretty sure Maggie's gonna end up getting that. Like, because you have to remember, they got their first few powers, and then they ended up gaining more powers through the season. Like, randomly, they'd be like, oh, my son, I can see this thing. And then that fourth sister showed up, and she had a whole new power, too. So, like, I'm pretty sure Maggie's gonna be the one to see the future.
Okay.
Because she's the empath.
Harder question, because this is more like, 1990 question. This is an original question. I'm gonna try and guess who your favorite original sister was. You have one?
Yeah.
You can include Prue if you want. Okay. All right. Your favorite original sister was Alyssa Milano.
Yeah, I guess.
Really?
It's honestly, it's a toss up between what's her name? Phoebe, the older sister? No,
Piper.
The older Piper. Yeah, I really liked Piper until she became a little bitchy, but like I also like that because she just knew that. See, Piper and Macy are very much the same. That's why I like.
You
those
like
two
the
characters,
Piper, but you more are like the Alyssa. I gotcha.
Yeah, I'm like them. Yeah, I would say personality-wise, I'm like an Alyssa or like a Maggie, but I like the structure that like Macy and Piper had because they're like, guys, we got to get together. Like if that was the case, if I was like, okay, we're a witch, we got to get this house organized. Put the spells over there. I need this to be clean. We need to have organization if we're gonna do this, And that's what I liked about this.
I originally really liked Prue, and I shipped her with the cop like the first 2 seasons. I loved that shipping, but Piper became my favorite, which over time, surprisingly, I just liked Piper, and I liked her and Leo. Okay, now moving into what is going to be their catch name? Because here's the thing, all the sisters have 2 of them have a different last name from the third one, and it was really easy to always just be like, oh, the Halliwell sisters, what are we calling this sister trio?
Every girl has their first names start with M, all 3 of their last names start with a V, so I don't know, it's gonna be like the V sisters, the M sisters, I don't know.
V sisters sounds like V card or vagina. Weird. Yeah, my brain goes straight there. M sisters and V sisters. That's actually catchy.
Or maybe whatever the name of the house is, like maybe they have a specific
or maybe
name
they're
or
just
something.
Gonna be like Charmed Ones, because that's always been a name, right? Everyone they were always originally just the Charmed Ones. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Charmed
sisters. Yeah, for sure. Do you have a do you have a
week?
ship name for any of the love interest with
No.
Okay. I was gonna say we could burr the ship right now.
No.
Adair and I feel like we were birthers of the Supercorp movement and the Lames movement. we've done a lot of work on both ends.
Yeah, no, not yet.
Okay. Monster of the week. What'd you think? Were you surprised?
No.
I was totally surprised.
Oh, I totally saw that coming. As soon as the whole crow thing, I was like, and then as soon as they had the guy up for sexual assault and all other stuff, and he's like, I'm trying to get reinstated. It's a witch hunt, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, he's the bad guy. But to be fair, I'm the one who pretty much figures that kind of stuff out
all the time
first. So
I was ready to call
like,
it a day after she threw the baking soda on the sorority sister.
Now, mind you, I didn't understand, like, I didn't know what kind of demon he was going to be. I thought it was cool that he was an ice demon. But the only thing I didn't like, the fact that he was an ice demon, because they were playing that whole idea of, like, it was cold in the house when the mom got killed, and then they were going to happen to have a demon to kill that is cold. So it throws you off thinking that he killed her mom. And he's like, guys, I didn't kill your mom. And I'm like, okay, because
they said
demon's possession.
They said the demons run cold, so it might be like a thing that happens that going down the line.
Yeah.
I agree with you that, like, it's always hard with these shows to have a balance between the investigation towards finding the big bad and the emotional story of the week. Like one always loses over the other a little, and I feel like in this case, because they were laying down the world, they didn't have too much time to explain the world of magic yet, and I'm sure we're gonna get a lot of that.
I'm excited. You know who I'm excited about? It was a brief thing. It's the girl. Well, I guess she's an Asian girl. I don't know. That's kind of the way they explained it. Yeah, no, the Asian girl in a coma who got.
The girl who's brain dead. She's brain dead.
Yeah,
I don't know her name
or whatever.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that she might not be actual brain dead. She might
They
show
totally
up.
are laying cool Easter eggs for that. I agree entirely with you. I thought that the monster of the week looked like a White Walker from Game of Thrones, and I thought that was impressive. That was very impressive CGI from.
The CGI is great on the show. I'm happy. I mean, compared to the original,
all the CGI budget went. You know what it was? Is the original Charmed. They put a lot of money in off-brand '90s clothing. This reboot of Charmed, they're like, hey, let's put it all in the CGI budget.
Oh, for those of you who watch the show Grimm, that's what this kind of aesthetic looks like in the show. It does have a darker tinge. Even during the daytime, it still has a darker filter over everything, which I kind of hope during the day they get a little lighter. Just, like, brighten it up a bit, because, like, something that a lot of shows on the CW have been doing are, like, dark and gritty, which is fine, but it's to the point where I can't see anything.
Yeah.
Like, I just need y'all to, like, bump up the light just a skosh. I mean, I get shadows and being creepy, but, like, if I can't see it, then how am I going to be scared of it? You know what I'm saying? So I do like the lighting, but I would like it to be a little dark, a little brighter. But it does give me a very grim TV show feel, which was on like NBC.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on a little early. We liked the sorority sisters. I hope we continue to see more of them. I hope that becomes a real antagonist in the real world. And what do you think about Harry?
Harry, I like him. I like the kind of bumbling, quirky Giles feel of him. We always need that kind of British.
I think everybody went straight to Giles when they saw Harry.
Equally, like easily. Also, I like the fact that he, is being like he's cheeky. He's like, hey, I did get a bunch of Twitter followers because I'm hip. Haha. Like, I
really like that you just said that right now. I feel like social media was like a third character in the show, or an unseen character, because they use so much social media as just a way to connect transitions and as a way to like communicate, and I thought that was like such a huge part of the show. I really like the way they incorporated it.
Yeah, I liked him. I can't wait to see what happens as far as him possibly being a bad guy. At the end we have a don't trust Harry, and so I can't wait to see if is he a white lighter? Like, also something that I was telling Jen, he does a little orb disappearing trick, and he's like, I thought that was funny. He comes back, he's like, I just wanted to show you. Like, I really have to just actually walk out of the house. They don't want me to, give anything away. But he didn't, which I was expecting, a white lighter to... I liked that effect back in the 90s of this kind of blue orby Ghost Rider type look. And this was very much just like a portal disappearing. So I'm like, I wonder if the white lighter situation is going to get a little bit more literal, of being more of a white light, because that to me made me think, he might be a bad guy because he didn't apparate as a white lighter. if that makes sense. It's very Harry Potter. It wasn't very Charmed.
Yeah. I liked Harry a lot. I think, okay, so that leads us up to the topics of the week. I think that the show had a real POV, a real point of view. One of the things we were saying off-cast was that they seemed to have their finger down on top of the right topic, meaning that this pilot was written weeks ago, months ago even. Really before the Kavanaugh hearings and the vote to approve him into the Supreme Court. And the issue of consent was the topic of this pilot, and it felt like this is a post-Kavanaugh world, and the show had really covered a social issue in our society and has a point of view that they're going to be talking about all season. What did you think about that?
I loved all of the little topics, and we can kind of mention them all here at once because it's kind of a jumbled thing, you know. We went through consent, the he said, she said, which is why we were so shocked that even got brought up, because the Kavanaugh thing hadn't happened yet.
Yeah.
You know, and this whole idea of like, oh, I knew he was being a perv, and that's why we tried to get him fired, though that's her word against mine, or whatever, you know. And I thought that was very interesting. I really liked that, unlike Supergirl, when they do things that are very political, it's very obvious. They're like, and now here's our political thing in Supergirl. In this, it was obvious, but it wasn't like, and now kids, here's some political stuff. It made sense for the characters to be saying and talking about those things. The sister being a complete feminist and like, you know, a political person and all this other stuff, she was already set up to be that kind. So when she's walking around going, you can consent anytime, you can say no. You say no to him if you feel like it, you know. And it was kind of seen as a joke, but like, you know, she means that. And then when the sister ends up saying it again, like, do you want to kiss? No, I don't. And I said no means no, you know. And I think that's funny because it showed that even though she's acting like she's not listening to her, she really is, you know. I loved all of that. I loved the fact that it wasn't put down my throat. It was just a matter of fact, because that's what some women have to say and do and bring up. I thought that was really great.
I feel like this Sundays are not going to be like our woke woman Sundays, woke womanly Sundays, because we have Supergirl dealing with anti-alien sentiment, and we have Charm talking about consent, you know, and the Me Too movement. And I feel like you and I, we're in for a Sunday night.
Yeah, well, and it's so relevant, especially because they're in a college town. They're good. I bet that's gonna. Oh my God, that's gonna suss out so many other topics of, I'm sure, rape and all this other stuff with the Brock. You know, that guy. There's a lot. They set up a lot. Can't wait to see where we're going with it. Overall, let's get into some predictions. Are you ready for predictions? Well, I mean, yeah. Let's do it.
Okay, so what are some of your predictions moving forward?
Like I said, I think we're gonna figure out if Harry is a bad guy or a good guy. I personally think he might have a twin, or maybe the bad person Harry that the mom might think of is I don't know, a bad version of a good guy. I don't know. I think that, like you said, Nico, I have a feeling she will find out.
Yeah, my thought is that Nico is the first love interest to find out about the powers. I can't see one of at least three love interests not finding out about the powers. It does feel like Gavin will be second and Brian last to know. He seems a little clueless, but he's innocent. I feel like we're gonna see the love interest totally be Charmed, and that's gonna be fun. And also, I think that I'm interested to see Macy's father and why he didn't tell her about her mother, or why is that? And you know, there's always like the storyline in the original Charms that, you know, romancing the Night Rider.
Ooh, you know what I just thought? Sorry, you know what I just thought about? I just had an idea. Maybe the mom erased his memory of her, or like not like a full memory because she had the picture, but like planted a memory saying, "Oh, I died.
Yeah.
That's the memory that you have now. I died." And maybe he genuinely believed that she died because she's a witch and knew that he was maybe immortal and couldn't do that. So like, you know, would be in danger, if you will. And so maybe she planted a false memory, you know.
Well, that's always possible. It's interesting now that you mention it, you know, to find out more how the mom what her modus operandi was when she was functioning as a witch, and if there were any other women in her coven that are going to come forward and help guide these girls, especially as they doubt Harry. Overall, scale 1 through 10, what do you give this pilot?
I actually give it an 8.
Oh, wow. I gave it a 6. Okay.
I gave it an 8 because if I'm like taking away, like, and not comparing it to the original, we had good acting, we had good topics, we had a good villain, the graphics were good, it was entertaining. You know, I was like, oh, I can't wait to see what these sisters get up to. Like, I could also separate the controversies and blah blah blah, because that's just the business side of it. But as far as it being entertaining, thoroughly entertaining. I didn't think the writing was super cheesy, like many CW shows are, and that's probably because the people from Jane the Virgin were writing it. Or I mean, like, that kind of feel. So, like, I'm giving the pilot an 8, and we will see if it fluctuates from then on there. I don't think this is going to be necessarily like a 10-10 show, but it might be. Who knows? I'm excited to see where it goes. It feels like a good kind of dark. It's not like Riverdale or Sabrina where it's like super dark and gritty, but I think that it can be once we get comfortable with him. I think this season is going to be a season for the audience to get over the fact that it's not the original Charmed.
I agree entirely. I feel like, you know, controversy creates an opportunity to have a discussion and to flesh out, you know, what people are feeling and to be more hyper aware of ourselves. And I think whereas we didn't question the show before, you know, social media has made it possible for us to, like, bring our concerns straight to the writers or launch a podcast. Yeah,
because trust me, if the original Charmed had the social media that it has now, it would be very problematic.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things in that show that were very problematic.
And already the original Charm does not have the social depth that this show has. Like, the original Charm was all about, you know, boyfriends, going out, you know, day to day, what am I wearing? This has much more teeth to it, and I'm glad that it's evolved in that capacity. So, yeah.
Exactly. So, all right, make sure you guys hit us up on Twitter again at whatabout_dat. Check out our Supergirl premiere, and I should be having the Winona Earp finale debacle, because the thing is like 2 hours long, so it's forever to edit.
It's a marathon.
It's a marathon, but it's an enjoyable one, so it will be up soon. And next week I should have on our YouTube, which is at What About Dat, the Legends of Tomorrow review.
Oh my god!
I mean, when I mean review, reaction video.
We're becoming content monsters.
Yum, nom, 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 nom. All right.
Okay.
Have a good one, everybody. See you later.
Thanks for listening. And if you want to take us on the go, we are now available on Podbeam, Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. And if you want to slide on over to Twitter, make sure you find us at whatabout_dat. Hope to see you soon.